do this showing our faces and everything.
I know. What does my son call it? A face reveal.
A face reveal.
That's what we're going to be doing.
Oh my gosh. I don't think we're ready for that.
I'm ready. Let's do it.
You want to do that?
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's do it.
All right. So welcome to Augmented Teachings, where we'll talk about the things that inspire us to think better, feel better, and in turn be better. I'm your host, Todd Michael Jackson, and my co-host, Brandi Pagano. How you doing, Brandi?
I've got the giggles.
Take two. So here's my co-host, Brandi Pagano.
Hi.
How you doing, Brandi?
I'm so good. Happy to be here for our face revealing.
Our face reveal. I can't
This
believe
is us.
it. I know. So I'm excited, and I can't wait. What's today's topic?
Whatever pops up into our minds.
Oh, really? Let's talk about the ego.
Sure. Let's do it.
Let's talk about the ego and why it's so important to get it in line and get it functional, working for you instead of against you.
Right.
And why it's important to do that is where I have my expertise, because being an N.D.E researcher, I have come to understand how the ego affects us here and how it leaves us utterly on our own back home in heaven.
Right.
Basically what happens is as soon as you pass over and you go to heaven, we all go to heaven. If we couldn't return to heaven, we would never come here to begin with. So we all go there. Second, when you go there, you'll go through something called the past life review, where you go through your whole life and you are able to see and feel everything all over again, but how it affected others also. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that is so important about getting your ego in alignment, because every decision you make with a dysfunctional ego will come to bite you when you return back home. So as your ego is learned compassion and empathy and you see somebody, say you see someone walking on the street that's homeless, and you have your ego in check and your soul's able to override that ego, you may treat that person with kindness and respect and dignity, knowing that it's a piece of God. That human being is also a piece of God, just as you are. Or B, you have a situation to where your ego jumps up and is dysfunctional and says, go get a job, and puts the person down. When you go back home, you don't have that ego there to rationalize why you said that. So you just have to deal with the dysfunctionality that you just presented and feel the emotion that you brought to that person. So, and this happens in a grand scale many, many, many times throughout a person's life if their ego is out of whack and living in fear and judgment. Mm-hmm. So it's very important to bring that together and bring that with your soul, working with it through love and compassion and understanding. Sometimes you don't have understanding, but it's important to learn it. And it's very important to know that now that we live in this society where we have the internet, you can hurt people and cause pain on a grand scale if you start being a bully online or start judging harshly and not using empathy and compassion. Sometimes we see things that make us want to respond negatively. Best to leave it. If you don't have nothing nice to say, don't say it at all. Especially on the internet, because it's really going to affect you back home. So I think with your expertise, because you are a co-author of a book called
The Big E Power.
The Big E Power. Tell us about that a little bit.
Well, The Big E Power is based off of some experiences that myself and the co-authors had. Mm-hmm. And we learned techniques to work with what we call our Big E, which is our ego. Mm-hmm. And from my experience and my understanding, you can't have a Big E, your ego, without a soul.
Right.
Because the soul is the individual consciousness of the one spirit of all. That's my understanding.
Right.
And then we come here in this vessel and we get a Big E. We get our ego, which is our brain.
Right.
It's not our mind. Our mind is something separate than our Big E. And my purpose for choosing to work with my Big E is to become the master of my reality.
Yes.
Because then I get to choose the experiences that I want to have here. And, you talk about taking those experiences back home, right?
Yes.
Back home to heaven.
Right.
And I want to take the best experiences back home.
Yes.
Because those are the ones that I want to carry on. Those are the ones that I want to remember and relive.
Right. And not only do they benefit you, they benefit the people you share them with. Because we can share our experiences back home. So it's very important to create good ones.
Absolutely.
Like I tell people, memories and experiences don't last a lifetime; they last an eternity.
For eternity.
So choose wisely.
Exactly.
Yes.
So this Big E Power book is about our journey and the steps that we took and the exercises and the experiences we had and how it benefits us and the people who choose to read the book and go through those exercises and experiences. They're going to have that experience too.
Right. So you used to teach mindfulness.
Yes, before COVID.
In elementary schools and junior highs,
Yes.
right? And you would help the children get their egos in line. Learning mindfulness is different than traditional meditation, correct?
Yes. So my interpretation of meditation is, we've talked about meditation is speaking to God and
or God speaking to you.
Right.
As we pray, we speak to God.
Yes.
And meditation, God speaks to you.
Yes.
Mindfulness is something different.
Mindfulness is focusing on one thing on purpose and not judging the situation, not judging it for whatever it is.
Okay.
So in mindfulness, we're taught to focus on either something that we're thinking, something we're listening to, something we're seeing. Like one of the games that I used to play with the kids is I Spy. So when I say I spy something yellow,
right.
What are we doing? We're telling our brain to focus on something yellow.
Right.
So that's what it's thinking about. It's not thinking about what am I going to have for lunch later, because then it's split.
Right.
And there's not, the focus is not there.
Right.
So we're training our brain to focus on what it is that we choose to experience. So we're gaining control in that moment, in the present moment, because we're not thinking about the past. We're not thinking about the future.
Right.
We're in that present moment looking for something yellow.
Right.
See what I mean?
And when we have fear and then judgment and then sometimes hate comes with that, you're bringing your brain back from that.
Yes.
From going down over that cliff and bringing it back and focusing on something else and calming yourself down and letting that go by the wayside.
Right.
Right. And that's so important, because the more fear and judgment, anger that you have and create in your life, the farther you push God away. A lot of people think, oh, God's in the Bible, or God's at a church, or God's a religion. It's like, no, God is love. And as long as you're feeling these negative thoughts, thought patterns, and responses, you are literally pushing yourself away from God and not being able to tap into that benevolent ocean that God is. So I believe that one of the things that we should learn the most is some of the strategies, and that is a very good strategy, is learning how to pull yourself, bring a focus back over here. Sometimes you said breathing too, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Focus on your breathing and clear your thoughts of that and let it just fade away and push away. And then before you know it, you're aligning yourself back in.
Right.
Now, are there other techniques that you know of to help your ego get around these pitfalls of judgment and fear?
Yes, absolutely. So in addition to mindfulness, there's intentional self-talk, I call it, because sometimes we have these conversations with ourselves and they're not always pleasant.
Yeah, sometimes they go all over the place.
And they're not always positive,
right?
And so having the intention to speak kindly to ourselves, to become a friend to ourselves, because in this vessel, all we have truly is ourself.
Right.
People come and go out of our lives. And once we are no longer in this physical vessel, we don't have that ego anymore. We don't have that that part of us.
Right.
Because that's our physical brain. That's our physical entity.
Right. Like back home in heaven, there is no fear and judgment because there is no ego to carry it.
Yes.
We all live, uniformly, lovingly with each other. Back home, our souls do. And then we come here and we get confused because our ego wants to override the intentions of our soul, and sometimes misleads us if we can't keep the ego in check and aligned.
Well, the ego lives in a state of duality, in separation, whereas our soul or our spirit lives in unity. And so that's why we are training our ego, our big E, to live in love, to live in peace, to live in unity.
Live in unity.
And we do that through, like I was talking about, the self-talk, also visualization, There's lots of visualization techniques.
Like what do you mean by that?
So, when you are thinking about something, you're focusing your attention on that, right?
Yeah.
When you visualize, you're putting so much more of yourself in that picture.
Mm-hmm.
So in the book, we talk about something called a mindful intention exercise.
Mm-hmm.
So where you're sitting mindfully,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a certain position that you can sit. There's lots of ways you can
Mm-hmm.
lay down, you can sit up, whatever that may be. But you get yourself in a state of calm,
mm-hmm.
relaxation,
mm-hmm.
and then you go through this exercise
mm-hmm.
and you visualize what it would be like. Okay, say you want to manifest a car.
Okay.
We'll just go straight to it and be simple.
Okay.
So you're looking to manifest a car.
Right.
So instead of just thinking about, okay, I want a car.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the law of attraction is like,
Mm-hmm.
all right, sure, I'll get you a car.
Mm-hmm.
And then, maybe next week you get this junky old car and you're like, man, I manifested a car, but I didn't want this one.
Yeah, right.
What is that about? So if we can be more directional
mm-hmm.
in our intention,
mm-hmm.
then we get to have a better experience.
Got you.
So you visualize, what kind of car do you want?
Yes.
You visualize, what does it look like?
Right.
What color is it?
Mm-hmm.
What does it feel like to sit in it?
Right.
And then you start to put people in that
Mm-hmm.
situation.
Mm-hmm.
You start to create this mental picture.
Right.
So you're giving your brain this picture, because
mm-hmm.
the brain works in pictures.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I say the word elephant,
Right.
did you think of an elephant or
Yep.
did you think of the word elephant?
I thought of the actual elephant.
Right, because our brain works
mm-hmm.
in pictures.
Mm-hmm.
So when we give our brain something to focus on,
mm-hmm.
and it talks more about that in the book,
mm-hmm.
then the law of attraction is better able to
Right.
give us what it is that we want to have.
Right. And I see myself always going to situations where I can make people feel laughter
mm-hmm.
and joy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then I go to the gym and I, buy myself, Red Bull or something, to start my workout. And before you know it, I'm making people laugh. I'm making people feel, like there's camaraderie with us.
Yeah.
And I set my goals to
mm-hmm.
make that happen for them, but it also happens for me. And then that energy goes to the next person I just got from that person, because
mm-hmm.
we raised our vibrations, and it goes to the next person. And that one that came from them goes to somebody else too.
Mm-hmm.
And you see the waves of goodness when you return back home and you are watching your past life review, actually experiencing your past life review.
Mm-hmm.
You will see the waves of good intentions and good vibrations
yes.
that you put out, the waves, but you also can see and feel the negativity you put out. And that's why it's so important to get your ego in alignment with love and compassion and move it away from fear and hate, so that you can find yourself having a better experience here and a much more beautiful experience back home.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
Beautiful. So I think we covered this subject pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're done here. What do you think?
I think that I'm excited for the next episode.
Me too. All right. So always have love and laughter in your heart and keep moving forward. Thank you. Bye.
Take care.
Bye-bye.